A wealthy family, too caught up in their luxurious lives, saw their aging mother as nothing more than a burden. Without guilt or hesitation, they sent her away to a nursing home, convinced it was the best solution. Weeks passed, and then, a letter arrived, a final message from their mother. But instead of anger or resentment, it was filled with love, memories, and sacrifice. As they read her words, realization struck them like a storm. They rushed to bring her back home, but it was already too late. This is a story of regret, love, and a lesson that will never be forgotten. The night was drenched in heavy rain, the city lights flickering against the wet streets. Inside a grand mansion adorned with crystal chandeliers and lavish decor, the Thompson family sat around a long dining table, enjoying a luxurious meal. Laughter and the clinking of glasses filled the air. But in the farthest corner of the room, an elderly woman sat quietly. Margaret, with her neatly combed silver hair and weary eyes, watched her children and grandchildren, her presence almost forgotten. Her health had been declining over the past few years. Her memory was fading, she often misplaced her glasses, forgot what time dinner was, and sometimes, heartbreakingly, even struggled to recall her own children's names. Eleanor, her eldest daughter and the lady of the house, had little patience for these small mistakes. "Mother, please don't put your spoon in the soup glass again," Eleanor whispered, her tone sharp with irritation. Margaret smiled apologetically, her hands trembling as she placed the spoon down. "I'm sorry, dear. I must have forgotten." But for Eleanor and her husband, Richard, these little mishaps felt like constant burdens. Their fast-paced, glamorous life had no space for an aging woman who was slowly becoming more dependent. One evening, as the siblings gathered in the living room, Eleanor voiced her frustration. "I just don't know what to do anymore. She keeps forgetting things. This house, it's no longer the right place for her." James, her brother, a successful businessman, nodded. "There's a nursing home outside the city. I heard it's one of the best. They'll take care of her properly." "That sounds perfect," Victoria, their youngest sister, agreed. "We're all too busy. We can't possibly take care of someone who doesn't even remember what happened yesterday." And with that, the decision was made. Their mother would be sent away. The next morning, Eleanor found Margaret sitting by the window, watching the rain fall gently outside. "Mother," Eleanor said softly, "we've found a place for you. A nice nursing home where they can take care of you better than we can." Margaret turned to face her daughter. The warmth in her eyes had faded. "So, you want me to leave?" Eleanor hesitated before nodding. "It's for your own good, Mother." Margaret let out a small, sad smile. She didn't argue. Instead, she quietly stood up, picked up a small bag she had already packed, and walked toward the door. "I understand, dear." No hugs. No tears. Just silence as the family's driver took her away. Weeks passed, and life in the Thompson household returned to normal. Then, one afternoon, a letter arrived. The envelope was old and slightly crumpled, the handwriting shaky but familiar. It was from Margaret. Eleanor carefully opened it, her heart pounding as she began to read. "To my beloved children. I know you might expect anger or disappointment from me, but I have none. I could never be angry with you. I understand, I have become a burden. I see how fast your lives move, and I know I can no longer keep up. But I just want you to know. I still remember. I remember the first time I held you in my arms. The first time you called me Mother. I remember staying up all night to care for you when you were sick, how I cried in secret when you grew up and drifted away. I remember working day and night just to make sure you had the best education, the best food, the best life. I remember choosing not to buy new clothes for myself so I could buy you the toys you wanted for Christmas. I do not ask for your regret. I only hope that one day, if you have children of your own, they will not treat you as I have been treated. Because if there is one thing I have learned in this life, it is this. Nothing is more painful than being forgotten by the very people who were once my whole world. With a love that will never fade. Mother." Eleanor's hands trembled as she read the last words. A tear slipped onto the paper. Victoria, who had been reading over her shoulder, covered her mouth with both hands, her face pale with guilt. James stood frozen, a sinking feeling growing in his chest. At that moment, they all realized, they had made a terrible mistake. Without wasting another second, they rushed to their car and sped toward the nursing home. The entire drive was filled with silence, the weight of their regret suffocating. When they arrived, a nurse greeted them at the entrance. Her expression was somber. "We're here to see our mother," Eleanor said breathlessly. The nurse hesitated, then spoke in a quiet, sorrowful voice. "I'm so sorry. Margaret passed away this morning." The world seemed to stop. "No, no, that can't be," Victoria whispered, her legs trembling. Eleanor's vision blurred with tears. "Please, let us see her." The nurse led them to a small, peaceful room. There, lying on a simple white bed, was Margaret. Her eyes were closed, her expression serene. In her frail hands, she clutched another letter, one she never got the chance to send. Eleanor dropped to her knees beside the bed. "I'm sorry, Mother, please forgive me," she sobbed. But it was too late. After Margaret's funeral, the Thompson household was never the same. The once lively home now felt empty. Every room was filled with echoes of the past, reminders of the love they had taken for granted. Framed on the wall of their living room was Margaret's final letter. A painful reminder that a mother's love never fades, even when the world forgets her. But more than that, it stood as a warning: regret always comes too late. Because in the end, we only realize how precious someone is after they're gone.